This is the video of Introductory to Genetics for Anatomy and Physiology. Now, when you take your test is going to be composed of two components. One part will be the problems, and then the other part will be composed of multiple choice. Your multiple choice questions will come off of this video. So I'll try to point out various test questions as we go through the video and stop it and take notes as you go through. Starting off, Gregor Mendel is the father of genetics. He was a monk who lived in a monastery. He did research on his various pea plants. He looked at roughly 7 different traits on pea plants. We'll be looking at probably 2, maybe 3 of those. Now, this was a time period before DNA had been discovered. Along the time that Gregor Mendel's doing his research, Frederick Meissner is just scraping bandages and tending to his patients and discovering DNA. You also have Charles Darwin doing his research on evolution. So all of this is going on along about the same time. The importance of Gregor Mendel's work was not recognized during his lifespan, but he did make some major contributions. He developed 3 laws of inheritance that are going to be important for you to know. He used controlled breathing. He took very careful documented notes. He had large numbers of pea plants, and he was able to look at the statistical results of those large numbers of pea plants. He also came up with some very important terms that will be key for you to understand in order to succeed in genetics. And here you can see the 7 traits of the pea plants he worked with. He looked at the seed form, whether the seeds were round or wrinkled, and we're going to be looking at this. He looked at seed color, yellow versus green. This is another one that we're going to be looking at. These are going to be the 2 main ones. He also looked at whether the plants were tall or short. We'll be looking at that as well. And then he looked at seed coat color, flower position, pod color, and pod formation. Now you'll notice that in this chart you can see what is dominant, what is recessive. You'll notice that each of the dominants have a capital letter, each of the recessives have a lowercase letter. You'll notice the letters are the same, it's just capitalized for dominant, lowercase for recessive. Also, when you're writing, if you have very poor handwriting or if you're in a rush, when you have an uppercase and a lowercase that are very similar, I would strongly recommend you do something to tell the difference between them. For example, that's an ugly Y, but there's a capital Y. Where when I do my lowercase y's, you'll notice I put a curly Q on the Y so that when I'm in a rush, I can always see, okay, that's got a curly Q, that's lowercase. Right now, that may sound unusual or silly, but when you start doing your homework, you start doing the test, that will save you from losing points by making silly mistakes. Now, on this page right here, I highlighted quite a few test questions. So if it's highlighted, you should really take your time, take a picture of it, write it down, do whatever you need to study. So you'll notice I have that Gregor Mendel is the father of genetics. He came up with 2 terms, dominant and recessive. Dominant is the prevailing factor. It's an uppercase. Recessive is the lowercase. It is the non-prevailing factor. So here for round being dominant would be capital R. Wrinkled being recessive, it would be a lowercase r. He also came up with 3 laws of genetics or inheritance. The first law is called the law of segregation. It says that in the formation of gametes are sex cells. That means that they are the eggs in the female, they are the sperm in the male. In the formation of gametes, the chromosome number will separate and it will reduce from diploid to haploid. What that means is that in humans you have 46 chromosomes, but your gametes will have 23 chromosomes. Now this is important right here because at the time of fertilization, the egg has 23 chromosomes, the sperm has 23 chromosomes, 23 plus 23 give 46, and therefore the baby would have 46 chromosomes just like its parent. If that did not occur, and the gametes had the same number of chromosomes as the parent, the baby would be born a fish, because fish have 92 chromosomes as opposed to a baby. So that's an important law. The law of segregation. In the formation of gametes, the chromosome number drops from diploid to haploid. With that said, the term diploid and its symbol is 2N means the complete chromosome number. It depends on which organism you're looking at. For example, fish, the diploid number is 92. However, in humans, and because this is human anatomy and physiology, the chromosome number here would be 46. Haploid is half the chromosome number. The symbol is N. In humans, that would be 23. Gametes are haploid. That's a test question. In the law of independent assortment, it says as the chromosomes separate, they do so randomly. You do not get to choose. Oh, I want my baby to have blue eyes, so I'll make sure my gamete has blue eyes, and I want it to be tall. It's completely random as far as what traits are carried by the gamete and would be passed on for fertilization to the baby. The law of recombination says that in the formation or at the time of union, in the formation of the gametes to fertilize, the chromosome number will go from diploid to haploid. So when the egg and the sperm come back together to form a fertilized egg, the egg is now diploid or has the complete chromosome number. Now today we know that all of our genetic traits are carried on chromosomes. Humans have 46 chromosomes. When we look at our chromosomes, we look at them in pairs. Now this is very important. Listen closely to this. Humans have 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs. Okay, make sure when you take the test, am I asking for the chromosome number or am I asking for the pair number? Of those 44 chromosomes or 22 pairs are called autosomes. So that's, can you roll your tongue? Do you have widow's peak? Are you tall? Are you short? You have blue eyes or brown eyes, mid-digit hair, all of those, everything about you except whether you're a little boy or a little girl, that's an autosome. You have 44 autosomes or 22 pairs. You have 2 sex chromosomes or 1 pair. If you are a girl, you are XX, and if you are a boy, you are XY. Please make sure you pay attention to all of those highlighted terms and sentences. They are all test questions. Now, in order for you to pass genetics, you have to understand some certain terms. Dominant and recessive are huge. Make sure you know that. The next one we want you to know is homozygous versus heterozygous. Homozygous, they are the same. So that would be like big T for tall, or little t for short. Heterozygous means you received one trait from mom and one from dad and they're different. Big T, little t would be heterozygous. Now you must understand these in order to do well. Now, a tall plant can be tall because it's big T, or because it's big T, little t. But to have the recessive, in this case short, you have to have both recessive traits or it to be little t. The next thing we want you to know is genotype. Genotype is the genes that are present. You can't see someone's genes. You're not supposed to look inside someone's genes. Okay, so genotype is what letters that make you have brown hair. Are you brown hair because you're big B? Are you brown hair because you're big B, little b? Okay, it's those letters. Phenotype is just what we see. You're tall, you're short, you have brown hair, you have blonde hair. Okay, it does not include any of the letters. So please make sure you understand those 3 terms. Those 4 terms, can't count.